Peace, everyone. I am Kenny Baraka, the host of the World Book Day Book Club, and I'm excited to have with us this month's World Book Day Book Club author, Nizrana Farook, the author of the thrilling adventure, The Boy Who Met a Whale, October's World Book Day Book Club title. How are you doing today, Nizrana?
I'm fine, thank you, Kenny. Thank you for inviting me. I feel so honored to be the October Book Club pick.
And we're honored to have you. As much as we love to find out, and we're here to actually find out about the book, we'd really like to find out a lot about the genius behind it. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Me, I was born and I grew up in Sri Lanka, and that's why my books are set there. It isn't the actual Sri Lanka of now that my books are set in. It's more of a fictional Sri Lanka of a long time ago. I felt that there was a lot of possibility there, so I went with that. I've been living in the UK now for the last 14 years, I think. So this is home for now, but I still like to, in my imagination, go back to my home country by writing these books.
A journey back, transporting back, and taking us along with you for that journey. We're going to start with a really general question. Can you tell us a little bit about the book, The Boy Who Met a Whale?
So The Boy Who Met a Whale is about a fisher boy called Razi, who has lost his love of the ocean because of a tragic accident in his recent past. Now, a fisher boy and not being able to go back to sea, obviously this is a huge problem for Razi because he can't move on with his life. Now, one day he is at the beach watching baby turtles go into the sea when a boat comes in. And inside the boat is a boy who is full of the most fanciful stories about a ship that sank, about evil villains who are after him, about sea monsters, and even a hidden treasure that he apparently is supposed to go and find. Now, Razi isn't sure whether to believe any of this. It all sounds so far-fetched and unbelievable, but he helps the boy. He brings him in, he offers him food and water, and he finds him a shelter in an abandoned fisherman's hut, and he takes care of him. Unfortunately for Razi, at least some of what the boy said must have been true, because the evil villains then turn up. And it was actually Razi who quite accidentally led them to him, leading to the boy being kidnapped. Now, Razi is devastated. This was all his fault. He didn't believe the boy. He didn't realize the threat he was under, and he let this happen. So now it's up to him, with help from his twin sister Shifa, to go out and find the treasure and rescue the boy. And not only does he have to face the ocean again, he also has to come face to face with the biggest sea monster of all, which happens to be a blue whale.
So it's not only an adventure, it's a bit of a mystery as well, isn't it?
It is a mystery. It's also a story of friendship and first impressions, I think.
You know, very often, almost as inspiring as the book itself is the inspiration that's guided the author to write it. What would have been the inspiration for you for The Boy Who Met a Whale?
Well, I came to writing The Boy Who Met a Whale straight after my previous book, which was The Girl Who Stole an Elephant. And when I came to this book, I felt like I had to have another big animal here. It not necessarily big, but at least comparable in some way to my previous book, because I thought readers who come to it from reading the first book would expect something like that. So I can't, for example, write about the boy who met a hamster or something. So I had to come up with an animal, and I thought, what about a whale, specifically a blue whale? Because the elephant is the largest land animal and a whale is the largest sea animal. And also, there's only one place on Earth where you can see both the largest land animal and the largest sea animal in the same country, and that's Sri Lanka. So it felt pretty perfect and as if that was the right choice to make. And that's how I came to write this. But this isn't actually an animal story. It's more an adventure where the animal is one of the characters. And I've always been drawn to adventure stories. That's what I read when I was a child. So that's what I keep coming back to. And also relationships. I love writing about friendships between the characters, because that was the big thing for me when I was that age, around 12. Navigating friendships, all the complexities of it, was something that I was interested in, and I wanted to write that.
You spoke earlier about these books being a chance for you to kind of journey back to Sri Lanka. And obviously the book itself speaks a lot to geography and of location, and again, of traveling and journey. Can you talk to us a little bit about how to create a sense of place when you write?
Well, to create a sense of place, the first thing that I do is go back to my own memories. So I look at my experiences and my feelings back to my childhood in Sri Lanka. I even look at old photographs. I spoke to family members, remember this, remember that, even school friends, because there was one very memorable trip to a rainforest when I was in school. So all that, I sort of go back to it in my mind and try to immerse myself in it before I start or during the beginning of the book. But I also look at maps, I look at photographs online, I read travel blogs, I look at videos. So I watched, I think, hours and hours of whale footage. When people go whale watching and encounter whales, I looked at all that. And that's how I kind of build it up. It's very important for me to have plenty of visuals there for the reader to feel that they are there with the characters, especially because I think that there'd be quite a number of readers who'd come to this book not knowing much about that part of the world. So it feels important to give them something, even names of birds or trees, that if they want to, they can Google it and find out more. And even otherwise, while they're in the story, they feel like they've been there because of that.
We here at WBD like to be properly on our kind of World Book Day book club and chill. And as such, we need to have a little munch, a little snack with it. So what would you recommend that we partake in and enjoy while we're enjoying The Boy Who Met a Whale?
Well, I approve of that completely. Snack the book is the best thing ever. Ideally, the best thing would have been to have mangosteen, which is a sort of a hard purple fruit, for anyone who doesn't know, which you can break open the shell, and there are these segments of white which are really sweet and delicious. But obviously that's very, very, very hard to come by in the UK. So I would suggest, because this is a book set by the sea and it's set in a fictional Sri Lanka, I would suggest anything with coconut in it. Coconut it's widely used in cooking in that part of the world. Coconut milk is used in curries. Coconut oil is used for frying, and grated coconut is used in sambals and sweets. So I would suggest anything with coconut. Even a Bounty bar would do very well.
I was going to ask you about a Bounty bar as I sit and munch on my Bounty. Nizrana, what advice might you give to an aspiring young writer about writing adventure? I know you said that adventures were really big for you growing up, and obviously they still are, so much so that you're passing that love on to the many readers of the book. What advice would you give to young writers, young people who want to write an adventure?
For adventure stories, I think the biggest thing that you need to have is peril. That is, I think, the most important component, because readers are engaged with your story because of the peril in it. So you have to make sure that your characters face a lot of problems. And by that, I mean problem after problem after problem, where it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And also, it's really, really important that you don't make it easy for them to get out of it. So in your resolution or resolutions, because there should be lots of problems. The characters shouldn't necessarily take the most straightforward way out, because it's always nicer for the reader if the resolution is sort of unexpected and complicated. And I think that's the best thing that you can do for an adventure story. Just keep up the pace and keep up the problem so that your reader is all the time thinking, how are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And save the best one for the last.
Yeah. Okay. Tough question. What would you say is your one favorite book and why?
Well, my favorite book, strangely, is not actually my favorite book now, but it was my favorite book in my childhood. And I still have a special place for it because that is the book that brought me to reading. It's a book that made me a reader. And I think ultimately that's the reason I became a writer. So I credit that book with it all. And the book is called Five on a Treasure Island by Enid Blyton. Some of my readers might not have even heard of it because it's a pretty old book. And it was an old book even when I read it, because it belonged to my auntie. And I found it in a drawer and I read it. It was a very kind of battered paperback copy and, a very well-read old book. And when I read that, it was so atmospheric and so adventurous. I was transported at once. So I was a child in Sri Lanka reading about these British kids whose lives were nothing like my own, but I was gripped. I wanted to read more and more. I read all 21 books. I moved on to The Secret Seven, The 500. I think Enid Blyton, luckily for me, she wrote something like 600 books. And I think I probably read them all because I used to be a very prolific reader. So that for me still remains my favorite book, even though I know now you get much, much better books than that.
If you could pose a question about the book to our book club readers, what would that question be? What question might you ask them about the book?
Okay, I would probably ask, what were your first impressions of the boy when we meet him as he came in the boat? So Zhang, when Razi met him, he had already judged him before he had even properly got to know him. So I would be interested in knowing how your thoughts about him changed as the book progressed, as you got to know more about him, and was there ever a turning point moment where you made up your mind about what he must be actually like?
Thank you very much for joining us for this month's World Book Day Book Club. I hope you've truly enjoyed thinking, listening, and eventually talking about books. Please let us know how much you enjoyed The Boy Who Met a Whale. Happy adventuring, everyone. Thank you, Nizrana Farook, for being with us today.
Thank you, Kenny, and thank you to all the book clubbers. I wish you many happy reading adventures.